Hello everyone, I'm Tina Marie J. Welcome to this channel. This video shout out goes to Marquise Tibbs. I read all of your comments, and every time you comment you always say something that makes me feel really good. You always say such encouraging things to me, and I definitely appreciate your comments and your love and support on this channel, so that shout out goes to you, Marquise. If you're new to this channel, then feel free to subscribe if you do like the video, and press that little notification bell so that you will always be notified when I do put up a video. So I recently had a viewer ask me advice. She had just left the ICOC and her husband is still a part of the ICOC. So her question was basically, how does she handle or deal with her relationship when her husband still has the ICOC mentality and he refuses to leave? The stress, oh my God, do I know the stress of it all? So before I really get into the advice part, first, for those of you who don't know, let you know, when I left the ICOC, my husband did follow me out. But I do believe that if I were to never leave, he would still stay. Even though he did follow me out the door, we still had stress from me leaving because he did still carry the ICOC mentality. Now, the ICOC mentality is the thinking, the teachings that they instill in all of the members. So you know that the ICOC really believes that they're the one true church. Yes, there are members there who say that they don't believe that. There are members there who are open to visiting other churches, but it's really frowned upon. They don't go around visiting other churches. They would rather pull people from other churches into their church. If you're in a situation where you have left the church but your spouse refuses to leave, I know that that could be very difficult, and honestly, there's no right way to go about it, but I did write down some key points that I think may help you if you're in this situation. Let me just say, anything that I say as advice, any suggestions I make, are just based off of what works for me. Anything I say in any of my videos, not just this one, but any of my videos on this channel, I don't assume it's gonna work for everyone because one size does not fit all. So my key point number one, leaving the ICOC is going to be hard. It's going to be hard no matter what, whether your spouse leaves with you or whether your spouse stays and you leave on your own. It's going to be hard. You have the thinking of the ICOC. Even though you leave and you start to remove yourself from that thinking, you still have some bits of thinking, which leads into the triggers that you experience because of the ICOC comes from all of the thinking, the belief that they put into your minds as a member, how you're supposed to be as a submissive wife or how you're supposed to be as a leading husband, all of the scriptures that they teach you, all the Bible studies that you've gone to and that you had exploded yourself out with in these studies because you were told you had to be open, confess, and you have to submit and all of that stuff. That still goes with you when you leave the door. So don't think that just because you left the ICOC recently that means all of that is out the door, because it takes a while to remove that. I will just speak from my experience. When I left, it was very difficult for me because even though I felt I was doing the right thing, it was really hard. I felt like I didn't have any support from anyone that was friends with me in the church. I felt like I was on my own. I felt like, even though I know I'm doing the right thing, I know I'm making the right move in leaving, this is hard because I was taught that if I ever were to leave, God would leave me as well, or that I would go to hell, or that I was a fall away, I was a sinner, I was lost, I'm broken. The things that you're taught as a member is what will keep you there for whatever amount of time that you stay. So just know that leaving is gonna be hard regardless. Know that leaving is going to hurt you and your relationships. And I'm not just talking about your marriage or your relationship with your significant other, but your friendships as well. It's gonna hurt. So if you're dating and the person you're dating is in the ICOC, you leaving is going to affect that relationship. If you have friendships in that church, you leaving is going to affect those relationships. If you're married and you leave and your spouse remains, or even if you're, well, I shouldn't say even if your spouse leaves, because it depends on their thinking, where their thinking is. But like in my case, my spouse left with me. It still affected my relationship. It still affected the dynamic of our relationship. When you decide to leave a church like the ICOC or the ICC, it really puts a damper on a lot of things, even though obviously it's not your intention, it's not something you look forward to, but unfortunately, you can't really control the outcome. You cannot control the way that other people respond to you. And it's just like that in life. Like really, we cannot control how other people respond to us or respond to decisions that we make. But at the end of the day, we still have to make those decisions for ourselves. So at the end of the day, if you feel like leaving the ICOC is the best decision for you, regardless of what your significant other or your spouse or your friends feel, then that's a decision that you're going to have to make. What you don't want to do is you don't want to place so much pressure and guilt and shame on yourself. Don't fault yourself because of how other people respond to the decisions that you make with your life. It's not like you left the ICOC trying to hurt your spouse, trying to hurt anyone, and trying to hurt your relationship and your marriage. Really, there's no point in remaining in a church where you're like a dying flower just because your spouse is still in the church. It just, when you really think about it logically, it just makes no sense whatsoever. So don't place so much guilt and shame on yourself, because you're gonna have your spouse to do that for you, your friends in the church to do that for you, and the entire church is gonna do that for you. So it really doesn't make much sense for you to put that pressure on yourself. But as long as you know and realize that it's gonna hurt your relationship by leaving, then that's the important thing. Just keep that in mind. It's gonna happen, and unfortunately, we have no control over that. Learn to love yourself more and love yourself harder. When I left the ICOC, one thing I had to learn was how to love myself harder and love myself more. And I realized that I didn't really love myself as much as I thought I did until a couple years after I left. So I'm going on 3 years now. Actually, this Christmas holiday makes 3 years since I had left the ICOC. I had to learn within this period of time, this 3 years, how to really love myself. And I had to learn that I didn't love myself like I thought I did. I was busy loving other people, and I was busy listening to other people. I was not trusting myself. So you're gonna have to really focus on that, because right now you're going to go through some things that's going to be difficult. It's going to be a bit hard at times, and it's going to be important for you. This is very crucial right now for you to love yourself, because if you do not start to love yourself, your relationship is going to break you, and your husband is going to, or your wife is going to end up breaking you if they continue with the ICOC mindset. And even though they're not doing it intentionally, I say this respectfully, I'm not saying that your spouse is going to make you feel like crap, because I don't know, maybe they won't. If you don't love yourself hard, the things that you go through with your relationship is going to break you, because you're vulnerable right now. So even a simple comment by your spouse or a reaction by your spouse can really hurt. It can hurt really deep, because right now you probably are feeling lonely. You probably feel like you have no one on your side. You probably feel like you're gonna go freaking crazy. And I know, because I felt the exact same way when I left, and it really did mess me up, especially if you're someone who deals with anxiety or depression. It's gonna affect you 10 times more than someone else who doesn't really deal with mental health issues. So learn how to love yourself harder and take it easy on yourself. Investing more time into yourself. Go for walks. Go out in nature. I say this to people all the time. Just doing anything that makes you happy. Journal. I journal all the time. Things that are about you. Has nothing to do with anyone else. It's all about you. Things that make you happy, whatever you enjoy, whether it's sewing or drawing or singing or going out with friends or going to a coffee shop. It doesn't matter. Invest time into yourself and focus on loving yourself, and focus on other things, because when we stay focused on our relationship and the ICOC and what we are doing wrong, or what we think we're doing wrong, or what's going wrong in our life, when we focus on these things, then we just kind of get tunnel vision in there, and we forget about all the beauty around us. Now, key point number 4, you have to realize and remember, keep in mind that your spouse is carrying the ICOC mentality that you once had. Your spouse is not going to see things the way you see things. Your spouse is not going to understand things the way you understand things. Why? Because they have the ICOC mentality, whereas you no longer hold that mentality. People who are members of the ICOC are very rigid. They're very, very, very tough. They're very difficult to get through, to try to seep any other truth through to them, because they have their own thinking. I mean, come on, they're a whole group of people who meet like 4 to 5 times a week to hang out and do stuff, to do their Bible stuff and do this and do that and their events. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're around a group of people who think just like you and you're constantly hanging out with those people, anyone else from the outside who has any other kind of thinking is going to seem off to them. You are of Satan, you're of the world, I'm not listening. And this is just the ICOC mentality. It's a group think. And this is how they achieve the success that they get, by creating that. And this is why if you don't think in the same way that they do, then they want to suddenly start trying to fix you and sending you off to have D time with a discipling partner, or throw you in all these different groups to help work on you and work on your spirituality. You have to understand that your spouse carries that mentality, so they're not going to see things the way that you see things. They're not going to understand because you've left that thinking. Things are more clear to you. You see through a whole new lens now. And I'm not trying to judge every single member of the ICOC. I am just saying that a majority do have this thinking. Depending on what type of ICOC church you went to, some of this may and may not apply to you, but there are other churches that are a lot more strict, especially when it comes to marriages. If you are a woman who left the ICOC and your husband's still a part of the ICOC, then that is a very difficult challenge when it comes to the whole submissive thing. It's like, okay, well, are you still going to be submissive, or like what's going on with that? So that's like a whole nother issue you're going to have to deal with, or you may be seeing it being a struggle now. Just keep in mind that you cannot control the fact that your spouse still carries the ICOC thinking. So when your spouse says things to you, just kind of comes off a certain way or makes you feel some type of way, try your best, your very best, not to take it too personal. Don't allow your energy to absorb that, because that's toxic and you're vulnerable right now, and that can hurt you, and it will hurt you, and you do not want to be hurt any further than you've already been. You don't want anyone to break you down. You want to always try your best to keep your head up, try your best to love yourself, and try your best to stay focused on what other beauty is in this world. And that leads me to my last point, number 5, which is just trying your best. Try your best, like I said, to just stay focused. And you stay focused by, as I said before, doing things and investing in yourself, things that makes you happy. Like, just really think about what makes you happy. What helped me a lot was starting this channel and putting up videos. If you watch some of my earlier videos, I had videos where I cried and I vented and I came off really pissed off, because I was still really pissed off. I still had a lot of harboring emotions from the ICOC. Having these videos was my therapy. I never went to counseling, but I think if therapy is what you feel you need, or even marriage counseling, go for it. And this is just my personal suggestion, One thing that I would be careful with is if your spouse suggests that you see a member of the ICOC for any kind of counseling. Because first of all, majority of these counseling members aren't even, they have no license. Like, they're not really real therapists. And then the ones who are real therapists, they're most likely going to use their ICOC mindset while counseling you. I never wanted to go to anyone in the church for any kind of marriage counseling after I left, because I knew already that they were just going to try to bring me in. They were going to say things to my husband that would make him look at me some type of way, because it happened while I was a member. So I can only imagine what will be said to us if we were to see anyone from the ICOC as we left. If you want to see a Christian counselor, like a regular Christian counselor, not an ICOC Christian counselor, and that's something that you guys want, I don't think there's anything wrong with it personally. Go for it. Whatever works for you. really, this is going to be difficult. It's going to be one hell of a journey. It's going to be one hell of a ride. Focusing on yourself and learning to love yourself hard enough to protect yourself when other people do come in and try to break you or put you down. That's what's important. For me, I had dealt with like double the shame, because not only did I leave the ICOC, but then a year later I ended up also leaving religion. And that was just like, I'm still dealing with the effects of that right now in my marriage. But because I've been working so hard on loving myself and working so hard on just focusing on me and what I want to do in my life and what I'm happy with, and just trying my best and taking it easy on myself, it makes it hurt a little less. My husband still will say things that hurts every now and then, and I know it's not intentional. He's only trying his best to his ability, what he can try, and I do the same thing. But it makes the fall a little less harder. So even though you will still fall because you're going through this new journey, or you left the church, your life was so ingrained in this church, just tell yourself, you know what, I'm perfectly imperfect. I love myself flawed. I love myself imperfect. I love everything. Love everything. Don't just love when you are good or when other people are accepting of you. Love yourself even when you're not good or when other people are not accepting of you. Love yourself even when your spouse is putting you down, even when your spouse is making you feel like you're some lost fall away who's gonna probably go to hell. Love yourself no matter what, because at the end of the day, we have ourselves, and we have ourselves to love, and we do have a responsibility to ourselves. Yes, we have a responsibility to love our partner, but we also have a responsibility to love ourselves, because we came into this world solo, so we have to love ourselves regardless. I mean, when we go out, we are going to go out alone. And I don't mean to say that in to sound so mean. Not saying that you can't love your spouse. Of course, you have to continue to love them. I continue to love my husband even when he is a huge pain. But I also continue to love me. And I love myself hard enough so that I can know when he does something or when he responds a certain type of way, especially because I'm a very emotional person. I draw in energy very easily, so I have to be very careful. Because I know that when those things do happen, I at least know, like, okay, you're not perfect, you know, people are going to say you're a sinner, people are going to say you're a fall away, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? This is me, and I try my best, and that's all I could do. All I could do is try my best. I really hope that if you feel like this applies to you, I helped in any kind of way. As always, I want you guys to know I'm only here to help. I'm not here to tell anyone what to do or what not to do, or to turn people away from God or turn people away from anyone. I know this is really difficult. I know you're going through a really hard time right now. My heart 100% goes out to you, but you can make it through. Like, there is life after the ICOC. The ICOC is not the only place. Like, oh no, heaven is inside the ICOC church. There is life outside the ICOC, whether you remain a Christian or you decide to leave Christianity. Whatever works for you, that is fine. As long as it works for you, you go for it. You freaking go for it. You keep your head up and don't try to control everything, because when we try to control everything, things get even worse. Trust me, I would know, because that's me. I do it all the time. Thank you so much for watching the channel. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you did like this video. Also, I have my email, my website. If you want to get in contact with me personally, then I have my Instagram and my Facebook. Feel free to add me on there. I'll see you guys in the next video, or you'll be seeing me in the next video. Love you guys all so much. Waiting for you.